Part 25. Can the love you have fought for stand the test? Back in the room, Xuan Huaifeng sat alone under the electric light, and went out for a while. Originally, Bai Xuelan was merciful and allowed a leave, and it was a good thing that he could go to see Jade tomorrow. Things seem to be complete, but partiality is at work. Xuan Huaifeng was puzzled. The love he fought for was, of course, the love with Jade, which he chose willingly, and he and Jade have secretly admired each other over the years and sincerely promised each other. In comparison, Bai Xuelan is not authentic. Even if Bai Xuelan judged himself, it was a bandit's method, a bully's behavior. In this world, if someone fell in love with someone who robbed their body, it would be disdainful. Even if there are such characters written in the book, they are often vulnerable women, whose virginity has been taken away by men. And there is no other way out but compromise. Are you the one who is so useless? If it wasn't so useless, why was his relationship with Jade so unstable? Why is it uncomfortable to stand under the window again listening to Bai Xuelan's voice? Could it be that the love you have fought for can't stand the test? The more Xuan Huaifeng thought about it, the more elegantly frowned. Later, when I looked at the clock, I was shocked that it was late at night. Thinking that I had an appointment tomorrow, I couldn't be late, so I had to go to bed. But lying down is not the same as falling asleep. Resting my head on the pillow, no matter how hard I try to fall asleep, I still keep tossing and turning, and in the end, I have to toss for most of the night before closing my eyes in a drowsy state. The next day, the voices of the servants walking and talking outside the room came into my ears. And Xuan Huaifeng opened his eyes in a daze. Looking out the window, the sun is white. I don't know how long it has been rising. Xuan Huaifeng's expression suddenly changed, and he shouted, "Damn! Quickly get up from the bed, look at the clock, it is 11:30. He and Jade had an appointment for Chinese food. They should meet at about 12 o'clock. And now there is only half an hour left." Xuan Huaifeng secretly scolded himself for thinking wildly last night, and he shouldn't drink a big cup of strong tea before going to bed. Making things so hasty. Quickly open the door, stop a passerby, and ask him to go and tell the driver to prepare the car first. He hurriedly changed into a blue silk robe and opened the drawer. In the drawer, there was a neat stack of $10, which was prepared by Bai Xuelan for Xuan Huaifeng to admire. Xuan Huaifeng went to see Jade, and was very embarrassed to use Bai Xuelan's money to take the remaining 200 yuan salary, put it in his pocket, and quickly walked to the gate of the mansion. Arriving at the gate of the mansion, a car just drove by from the outside and stopped at the main entrance. As soon as the car door opened, Vice President Xu came down with his assistant. Xuan Huaifeng saw that it was the two of them and felt strange, so he could not help walking down the steps to greet them and asked, "Didn't you just re-examine yesterday? Why are you here again today?" Vice President Xu looked at him with a look of surprise. "I came here after receiving a call from Adjutant Sun, saying that the chief suddenly had a fever in the morning and wanted me to come over immediately." "Adjutant Xuan, you don't know that, right?" Xuan Huaifeng was startled. At this time, the figure of Adjutant Sun suddenly flashed out of the gate, hurried down the steps, rubbed his hands and said, "It's finally here, come inside. I'm waiting for you." Vice President Xu hurriedly led his assistant inside. Adjutant Sun also wanted to go in, so Xuan Huaifeng hurriedly stopped him, took a step forward and asked, "The chief is really ill? Wasn't it fine yesterday?" Adjutant Sun sighed. "Yesterday I saw that the chief was fine too. I don't know why he has a high fever this morning. I'm afraid the injury has recurred." Seeing that Xuan Huaifeng was silent, he explained, "The housekeeper told me that the chief will give you a day off today. And he also told you to try your best to do what you want, so that you can have a good day." So, I will do this. They didn't let them disturb you. In Xuan Huaifeng's heart, 10,000 people didn't believe that Bai Xuelan was really sick. Accompanying him these days, there is no sign of repeated injury. How come today's one-day leave is granted? And it is repeated immediately today? After all, Bai Xuelan was still playing tricks. Xuan Huaifeng figured this out, and was very angry. He felt that Bai Xuelan still didn't make progress. And he used villain tricks everywhere. If so, just go to the Huasha Hotel without asking, and let Bai Xuelan go out in anger. Adjutant Sun was in a hurry to go in. After saying these 2 words, he said, I should go in and see what the doctor has to say. Once the letter is approved, I will report to Prime Minister Bai. Don't be sturdy in a hurry. Since the doctor is here, it shouldn't be a big problem. If there is any personal matter, just go to it first. Of course. It's better to come back sooner if you can. He patted Xuan Huaifeng twice on the shoulder, turned around and hurried in. Inside the gate of the mansion, Xuan Huaifeng was still standing there. And the driver came over to ask for instructions. Adjutant Xuan, the car is ready. Are you going now? Xuan Huaifeng bit his lower lip and nodded. The driver went over, drove the car to the main entrance of the mansion, got out of the car and went around to the back, opened the car door and waited. Xuan Huaifeng stared at the car and didn't move for a long time. The driver couldn't make up his mind when he waited, so he came over and asked, Adjutant Xuan, did you forget something? Xuan Huaifeng replied, Oh, I forgot to order something. You wait here. I'll go in and get it. Come back when you're ready. Turning around and returning to the mansion, he walked all the way along the shady walls, looking at it from a distance. There were 5 or 6 servants standing in front of Bai Xuelan's room, but there was no sign of Vice President Xu and Adjutant Sun. Probably all in the room. Xuan Huaifeng clenched his brows. And he understood that as long as he walked over, he would be stepping into the ambush set by Bai Xuelan. It is always a little unwilling to let him easily ponder his thoughts to the point of not being left behind, as if he is the prey in his palm. But turn around and leave. I'm afraid that the next day my heart will hang in the air, and it will be even more uncomfortable. After hesitating for a while, he paced out from the shadows pretending to be calm. The servants were standing against the wall outside the door, resting their legs. When they suddenly saw the big red man in front of the chief suddenly come out, they all quickly stood up straight and greeted him gently with their waists. Adjutant Xuan, you're here? Xuan Huaifeng asked, What's the matter with the chief? One of the servants replied, I heard that the fever is not serious. The doctor has just entered, and Adjutant Sun is also there. Come in and see. Let's see. Xuan Huaifeng nodded, gently pushed open the half-closed door, and walked in without disturbing anyone. Because there were patients, the room was extraordinarily quiet. On the round table, there was a Western-style medicine box brought by the doctor, which was opened upwards, revealing neat medicine bottles, gauze, and so on. Vice President Xu and his assistant were both standing in front of the bed, and their backs covered most of the people on the bed. Adjutant Sun lowered his hands solemnly and stood aside. Seeing Xuan Huaifeng walk in silently, Adjutant Sun showed no surprise on his face. He walked a few steps calmly, facing Xuan Huaifeng, and whispered, You're here? Come and have a look. Xuan Huaifeng wanted to come in to inquire about the news but did not want to stay for a long time. Don't say that he thinks too badly about people, it's really that Bai Xuelan plays too unreasonably. In case of meeting with Bai Xuelan suddenly sat up from the bed energetically and taunted him. Xuan Huaifeng would never find it strange. From the time of reading acquaintance, this person will always have endless tricks in his mind. But in such a quiet atmosphere in the room, Adjutant Sun spoke again. but it seemed too ruthless to look at it. Xuan Huaifeng thought for a while, and slowly walked against the bed. Looking down, Bai Xuelan was lying on his back on the bed, with an ice pack commonly used in Western medicine on his forehead, and a half-thick quilt below his shoulders. Xuan Huaifeng was secretly surprised when he saw the two unusual bright reds on his cheeks. Thinking, it's not really sick, is it? Liars are not necessarily so authentic. Not caring about anything else, he reached out to reach Bai Xuelan's cheek, and when he tried the temperature, his fingers shrank suddenly. And it was surprisingly hot. Xuan Huaifeng was shocked and suspicious, and quickly stretched out 2 fingers to touch his neck, and the skin under the loose neckline of the pajamas was generally hot. It can't be faked anyway. Xuan Huaifeng asked, why is it burning so badly? Vice President Xu looked at his ugly face and comforted him. Adjutant Xuan, don't worry, the chief's body is solid. He was given a fever-reducing injection just now, and it will be another hour. I guess the heat will subside a little. After that, he instructed his assistant to clean up the medicine box on the table. Adjutant Sun greeted, it's the same as last time. Please ask Vice President Xu to sit in the next room, and wait until the chief's condition stabilizes before leaving. Vice President Xu said, that's of course. It's better if we stay here. I have someone to take care of. Adjutant Sun and other assistants packed up the medicine boxes. And then they acted on behalf of the landlord and led the 2 of them to the wing room. Xuan Huaifeng saw that everyone had left, so he simply sat down beside the bed. Although he was responsible for taking care of the wounded in these days, he had never encountered a time when Bai Xuelan was so drowsy with his eyes closed. People who are usually active and full of energy, once they become quiet, they are particularly terrifying, as if a spider silk hooked in the air is swaying in the wind. And it will be torn by an unpredictable force of nature at any time. After Adjutant Sun arranged for the doctor, he did not come back for a while because of something else. Only one eyelid was left. Bai Xuelan, who looked extremely weak and pitiful, and Xuan Huaifeng, who was sitting beside the bed. The silence in the room at the moment has also become a torture. Thinking of the thoughts of Bai Xuelan, who had been thinking about Bai Xuelan with the heart of a villain, it was extremely wretched. Thinking about it again. I hate myself even more when I heard him sing Qishi outside the window last night, so I shouldn't be hard-hearted and don't ask. Knowing that the dew is heavy in the middle of the night, and a person whose wounds have not yet healed, how can he bear to watch him sing a sad song alone? I'm afraid it's because of this freezing that he has a fever. Even a stranger should persuade him to go to bed quickly. It can be said that he is not cruel to Bai Xuelan. Xuan Huaifeng sat for a while, his body seemed to be immersed in fire and water. Thinking that half an hour should have passed, looked up at the clock, and was surprised to find that less than 10 minutes had passed. Enlightenment. It turns out that living like a year can describe the situation in front of you. Sitting still makes it easier for the heart to become chaotic, and time is more difficult to pass. Xuan Huaifeng really wanted to find something to do. He remembered that the doctor said that he had taken an injection to reduce fever, and the fever would gradually subside. So he stretched his hand from time to time. On both sides of Bai Xuelan's cheeks, he probed here and stroked there. But where is the slightest sign of a fever? Every time Xuan Huaifeng felt that the back of his hand and the place where Bai Xuelan's skin was touching were about to burn. He wondered if he should go find the doctor, and asked him to think of a way to do it again. He looked up and saw that it was only 10 minutes after such a long time. It seems unreasonable to rush to see a doctor. He continued to wait like he was boiling oil again. After waiting for a while, suddenly someone behind him knocked on the door twice, and pushed it again. The door creaked softly and opened. Xuan Huaifeng thought it was Adjutant's son who came back, so he quickly stood up and looked back, but it wasn't him. Adjutant Xuan, the driver, who was neatly dressed in the driver's uniform and even white gloves, poked his head at the door, saw Xuan Huaifeng approaching, shrank his head and smiled. I've been waiting for a while. And I want to ask you for an opinion. Are you still going out today? If you don't go out now, I'll park the car in the back first. At this time, the hour hand was already pointing at 12 o'clock. Xuan Huaifeng thought of the Qijun waiting for him in the hotel, and he felt in his heart like a bunch of thorns. He frowned. Here. I have to check the situation. I guess I can't leave. Do you have any other errands today? The driver replied. Nothing else, the housekeeper ordered. All right, I and this car are all yours to use today. Well, I won't go anywhere else. Just stay in the servant's small tea room. If you want to go out again, I'll be there for you. Is it feasible? Okay, let's do it like this. Xuan Huaifeng finished talking to the driver, and then called another servant over and said, please help me make a phone call to the Huasha Hotel. Ask Mr. Lin Qijun to pick it up and talk to him. I have a little urgent matter today. I'm afraid I won't be able to go. I'll apologize to him later. The servant went away. Xuan Huaifeng returned to the bed. As soon as he sat down, he saw that Bai Xuelan's sword-like brow seemed to be pulled, and he subconsciously stood up, lowered his head to look closer, and asked with concern, Are you awake? He moved and slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was dazed for a moment, before settling on Xuan Huaifeng's face. It seemed that it took a little effort to recognize Xuan Huaifeng, and said, Why are you here? Don't you want to go out today? The voice was rather hoarse. Xuan Huaifeng responded with a noncommittal, and asked him, How do you feel? Bai Xuelan woke up and said, It's much better than that time in the morning. And my head doesn't hurt as much. Doctor just gave you a fever-reducing shot. Xuan Huaifeng checked his body temperature, and it seemed to be a little better than before. He carefully looked at Bai Xuelan's eyes. At least he was sane. Half of his hanging heart was put down, and he asked, Are you thirsty? Do you want something to drink? It looks like I'm going to have a good time today. Bai Xuelan squeezed out a faint smile and whispered, Okay, please. Pour me a glass of cold water for me. At this time, don't drink anything cold. Xuan Huaifeng said as he walked to the wooden shelf at the back, took the cold water from the big cool cup, poured half a cup of cold water, and took another half cup of hot water from a thermos, made a cup of warm water, and served it back with a glass. Bai Xuelan looked at him from the bottom up and said, You help me get up and drink. Xuan Huaifeng helped him up, worried that he would not be able to do anything, so he simply sat on the edge of the bed and let his upper body rest on his body. Hold his face and feed him water. Bai Xuelan was obviously thirsty, lowered his head, and gulped down the full glass of water in one breath. Xuan Huaifeng asked, Do you still want it? Bai Xuelan shook his head. Thank you. I'm not greedy, that's enough. When he was awake, he became stunned, worried that Bai Xuelan would make fun of him. Sure enough, after putting the glass back and sitting by the bed again, Bai Xuelan asked, Didn't you have an appointment with Qijun? Why didn't you go? Xuan Huaifeng said, I have to go. But he has delayed something. 1 o'clock. I'll be there later. Bai Xuelan looked at him and smiled suddenly, as bright as the spring breeze in March. Xuan Huaifeng originally felt a little guilty when he saw that he was burning badly, but now that he was overjoyed, the sense of helplessness that lay in ambush came back. Is it really like this? It's not like that. Can I still make up a story to deceive you? Bai Xuelan sighed regretfully. I thought you were uneasy, so I pushed the date with him. Xuan Huaifeng said with a cold face, Why am I worried? You have 2 adjutants, one after taking a leave of absence. there will naturally be another person to take care of you. Besides, which good doctor can't be hired by the White Mansion? As he was speaking, he knocked on the door twice. The servant stepped into the room just now, bowed slightly to Bai Xuelan, and then answered Xuan Huaifeng. Adjutant Xuan, I called Huasha Hotel just now, and Mr. Lin said he came out. It's not easy to make a trip. No matter how busy you are, you can't be busy all day. When you're done, go see him. He won't leave in the hotel, waiting for you to come. Xuan Huaifeng was quizzed, but the servant exposed the old story in public, and his face flushed as if it was burning. He glanced at Bai Xuelan from the corner of his eyes. Although his face was light, his eyes were full of pride. This place really can't stay a second longer. He stood up and said to the servant, "What's the matter? You go to the small tea room and call the driver for me, saying I'm going out now." The servant went immediately. Xuan Huaifeng also stepped out of the door. When he got to the door, he didn't hear Bai Xuelan blocking him. He was surprised for a while and couldn't help but stop. He turned around and asked, "I'm going out, do you have any other orders?" "Adjutant's son called over to accompany you." Bai Xuelan leaned halfway against the head of the bed, and said lazily, "I've already granted your leave, can I still go back on it temporarily? If I ask you to stay with me, you're thinking about what I want. Destroy the relationship between you and Qijun by the following means. Well, I can't always be this kind of villain. And I can just be magnanimous and let you go. Maybe you will thank me a little bit." It didn't itch, and it made Xuan Huaifeng feel like he was being held by Bai Xuelan in the palm of his hand. Xuan Huaifeng said, "Do you think I'll stay when you're so hard to get?" Bai Xuelan laughed. "Let you go, and then say I'm hard to get. Do you still want me to live?" Xuan Huaifeng said, "I definitely won't fall for your trap this time." Sure enough, he turned around and left without hesitation.